So we're live. Welcome to the AI Across the Product Lifecycle podcast. This is your host, Michael Finocchiaro. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to welcome my guest today, Zinn of CognaSIM, and Rhushik Matroja of CDS, or Cognitive Design by CDS, if I'm more precise. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Rhushik, tell us a little about you and about CDS, the mission you guys are on.
So, hello everybody. I'm Rhushik. I'm CEO and co-founder of Cognitive Design Systems. We develop a software called Cognitive Design. It's engineering software. Our main focus is to optimize the geometries for manufacturability, cost, carbon footprint, and performance. We take a 360 approach on optimization of such geometries to make sure that there are less iterations between all different various divisions of manufacturing, design, simulation, and others. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great because you're really driving that wedge between the design and simulation side. Whereas John, I think you'll explain to us how you're trying to make it easier to interact with the simulation software.
Yeah, we at CognaSIM, I'm the CEO and co-founder of CognaSIM, and we really have honed in on a lot of the pain points for engineers in taking their designs and moving it through simulation. And while the industry's made huge advancements in terms of accessibility and tools that can work on the component level, what we see is that large organizations really struggle when it comes to assembling these components into rich assemblies and looking at systems and analyzing systems and managing forces, connectivity, and studying these larger systems. And so we're honed in on using AI to make simulation more accessible and are building a universal simulation interface that's AI driven that can connect to multiple simulation platforms and multiple physics and really allow engineers to focus on understanding their products and understanding how to improve product performance instead of wrestling with UIs and figuring out how to connect different tools and how do I do a coupled fluid structure interaction problem and get everything set up and get it to work. And so we can use the power of AI to really streamline that process and just make engineers' lives easier, but also help teams to move faster and do a better job of engineering.
That's really awesome. I'm glad to have both of you guys on here, and both of them sound really exciting. What I usually like to start with is talk about, this moment we had 3-4 years ago now when OpenAI came out with GPT-3, which most of its Microsoft had never even heard of GPT-2, but suddenly there was this GPT-3, and now it's pretty legendary. When that moment happened, were you skeptical? Were you like, no, it sounds like hype? Or were you like, wow, this is the change. This is the pivot point for engineering. Where did you guys sit on that, John?
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was fun to play around with at the beginning, and it was kind of eye-opening and a little bit inspiring. And to be honest, I wrestled initially with what can you do with this and where can you go with this? And then it took about a year of playing around with it to say, okay, it looks like it's getting mature. It looks like it's developing. It looks like something could be done with this. And the question at that time was, okay, how do you do something with this? Right. And what's exciting is that, the following year as we kind of moved into 2024 and especially, all the revolutions around MCP in 2025, just was really the tools and the ability to build in these systems improved. So that was definitely exciting. And now I think the takeaway that I have just looking forward is figuring out how do you get it to be performant and accurate and tight to an engineer's standard of quality. And the hard the hard lesson for us to learn is that prompt engineering and MCP knowledge documents aren't enough to guarantee consistent behavior. And so we're having to go deeper and work on other approaches to say, how can we guarantee consistent behavior that engineers expect and require?
Right. So it's not probabilistic, but more deterministic. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I echo John on the same thing, and I was impressed by when it came out by the large language models, but I was skeptical on where this could head to and how this could be used in engineering. I believe that this could be a great tool at the beginning, that is to create engineering knowledge warehouse or some kind of a database where we can actually gather the know-how and share it. I believe that this could also kind of democratize our relatively niche field that we are working in our audiences, so they can maybe come into interact with us in a massive way. That's what I was my first thoughts about it. The first trials that we did at that moment, it was of course non-conclusive. I mean, it was still too early to make something out of it. But like everybody, I guess I kept the eyes and ears open and on the progress that it made along the months, because it's not even years. I mean, it looks so far away, but it's actually few months ago. So I never thought it's a trend, because the technological foundation that it's based on, it's quite solid, and I think it's a long-lasting technological breakthrough that we are seeing. So it's not just a bubble or a hype that's gonna go away certain way. It will maybe change how it's been used in the future, like any other technology at the very beginning. And to make sure that we are aligned on that, at CDS, we also started two initiatives regarding the AI. So the first is the AI for productivity, and the second one is the AI for product. Because if you understand it well in your daily work, then you can mind also improve it also and bring it also to the product even better. And I can say that the first results are really cool. So very excited.
And I think CDS started in 2018, so actually before the end of the world, and then the restart of the world. And how did you start, or at what point did you start adding AI into the development cycle? When did you start having enough confidence that the developers could use it and you could get real code out of it?
Yeah, so at the CDS, we talk about AI from the very beginning, but it was a different AI that we were talking about. We were talking about more about the machine learning algorithms and some other kind of other AI technologies like CNN and GCNN and others. So we were always into the field of AI, but this whole but these algorithms were working in the back end of the software, and not something that is interacting with the user on daily basis. So we were training our models, we were implementing those models into our product, and give access to the users. On top of it, from the beginning we decided that we want to create something which is completely on premises. So because of the nature of the industry with which we work with, having something where like I can bring the data and enrich my was difficult. So the whole learning was done on our side, and then we bring the technology to the software. So yeah, always fan of AI, but now even bigger because of what's happening and what we are looking at.
And is it the developers at CDS, are they using Cloud Code or Cursor or stuff like that?
So that's a part of the first initiative of the AI for productivity. I mean, it has been game changer in the speed of execution that we can achieve thanks to this. It's of course at the very beginning where we were very skeptical about the quality of the code, and would that be enough to bring it, and there will not be any bugs after and everything. But we see that more and more we are progressing. The quality of code is becoming more reliable. We can define, but the engineers, and the developers, their role have transformed in a way, because instead of typing the code manually and and debugging it manually. Now they have an assistant. Everybody has a secretary, kind of. So everybody's happy in a way, and they are able to achieve and do some more productive work, which is more on the side of like the architecture, what thought process which is going behind the algorithms, rather than just typing the code and fixing where the bug is, where I forgot the comma and where I forgot the, where there is a spelling mistake, for example.
John, do you have a similar experience? I mean, you started in 2024, correct?
Yeah, so we definitely were able to build upon all the power of transformers that was coming to market and starting to mature. And it was exciting to see how Cursor and how Claude Code were being developed and their capability. And it kind of was an inspiration and a model for us to say, look, this can happen. And looking at how large organizations were skeptical of AI and how they began to embrace it. And just like Rhushik said, there's really a change in workflow. You get an assistant and it can help you write code, and it does a pretty good job. But the software engineer's role now changes to be, you need to be a better code reviewer, and you're reviewing code that AI is helping you to generate. And you need to think a little bit longer and harder about the architecture. And these coding assistants will also help you develop the architecture. But one of the interesting things about AI, and I do see it as a transformational technology and kind of plays into this roadmap of education and jobs and where it goes, is that the thing that people have to be cognizant of AI and know what it does well and know what it doesn't do so well and know how to communicate clearly to it to get the intended outcome. The words matter. And it's kind of like talking to your children. You say something, you think that what I said was very clear. They heard what you said and interpreted it slightly differently. And so it's forced me to kind of look at, am I being clear? Am I being precise in my instructions? And the other thing that's interesting is that there's a lot of power there, but if you don't have the creativity to ask the right questions or to challenge it in the right way, to think big enough or to do more for you, then it can look like a weak assistant for you instead of being a partner working with you. And so the workforce needs to learn how to work with AI, how to do it responsibly, understand that you're still human and you're still in charge and you're still responsible at the end of the day, and you need to take ownership too. But also to say, challenge the AI and think bigger and give it larger, more complex problems to solve and see how it can do that for you. And more than likely, you'll be amazed, with the companies that are really leveraging the technology and implementing it well.
I was wondering too. So, like, in terms of the development process, how are you guys building the knowledge base on the engineering side? Are you guys using RAG? Are you thinking about developing your own LLM or LMM, as Maurer of Leo AI talks about? I mean, how are you basically capitalizing on the engineering and simulation knowledge to help the engineer figure out that fillet's not going to work, and actually we ought to do it this way? Rhushik, do you have some input there from a CDS point of view?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the as you mentioned, the engineering RAG, that's something that has to be part of, I believe, in all engineering software companies. That would be very, very important, because first of all, having the context, because now that's the biggest word, like understanding the context of the problem, and keeping the context alive, on same time updating the knowledge base, so it can also maybe finds the right patterns, and then implement it over the years or over the months, of using it, that okay, these patterns are coming up more often, then okay, we should propose, or the software should propose it automatically. That would be there. But that's the thing. I mean, this is the fundamental change on how the software works. It's no more one way of like, okay, the orders are given and you have some specific sets of orders give you a specific sets of solutions. Instead of that, this could be something that could be much more improved, evolutionary, and that's where we are heading to, definitely.
Awesome. Just so the folks in the audience, please feel free to ask questions. I'm looking at the chat when I look over here. So feel free to ask questions to Rhushik and John live. John, did you want to react about that last question I had?
Yeah, our process is very similar. And in many ways, we kind of look at AI as being a student. And we're teaching it about engineering and engineering principles. And then our focus is really heavily pivoted towards testing and refinement to say, here's the problem, here's the answer, go solve this. And did you get the right answer? And understand, how do we score it? It's a C, it's a B plus, it's a A, and teaching it to say, okay, now we're scoring you based on this. And we're looking back at ourselves as the teacher and saying, like, were we not clear in what we were teaching you to do, or are you not being a good student and you're not listening to what we're saying? And so it's this process of working with it. And Rhushik also brought up context. Context is king, and how you manage context is really important in managing the response that the AI gets, because it's heavily biased towards what you've been talking about the most recently. So if you do a hard change of thought and you like bounce back and say, oh, this other thing, and you're not explaining your thought process of how did you get from point A to point B, and like, what are we doing now? That can create situations where it gets confused and may misinterpret your intentions. It kind of thinks you're still working on the thing that you were last working on. And so if you're not clear, and it's pretty easy to lay out exactly what you want to do. And I think the wonderful thing is that we're fortunate to be working with engineers who kind of think in a orderly, structured thought process and are very good at working with these systems and feeding information to them.
Yeah, I found that a lot of times the AIs will just kind of go down a blind alley, and then they just get stuck there. You can't have them turn around and start over again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point, and I echo John on that one thing that he mentioned about the determinism. That is also very important in the whole process, that if your software is based on something more concrete, more deterministic approach, you can have AI layers to orchestrate various different algorithms. But having a certainty of answers, having the context alive, that would be the key to real engineering, because that's differentiate engineering and art. That okay, if it's not repeatable, then it can become quickly a piece of art that okay, yeah, okay, this is a very unique piece, but I mean, we need something which is repeatable. And
Right.
That
would be the biggest challenge in the coming months.
I found that I mean, we've talked a lot about not us in this conversation yet, but a lot about agentic AI, and what I found the problem is that it's always trying to make you smile and make you happy, and I feel like there needs to be a Maimonides agent who's sort of spewing doubt. I don't know, I'm not really sure about this. It just makes you think. Also, I think that might be a whole field of AI ops we're going to need, because we need to manage the verifiable facts in a conversation, separate those out from the frustration on the keyboard saying, God damn it, didn't you hear what I said? I'm sure we all do that to our GPTs when we're get frustrated with them. So I think it's complicated, because you've got to separate the stuff that's actually real and works from just the conversational stuff. And that's not always easy to get to, right?
I heard a new word about it. That's a swarm bots that are like a swarm agentic swarms, or I don't know how they call it, but yeah, that allows you to like have various different roles, and I think that's like having this critical analysis AI that does the critical analysis, or have that kind of mindset would be important. We are already talking about AI as somebody who's there, but yeah, that's how we are getting familiar with that.
John, you had something to say, I think.
Yeah, we've played around with that and have really considered a concept of having an AI as an independent verification AI. And do you need an AI to watch the AI and to hold the AI accountable? And the interesting thing, and it's challenging. It's an interesting and a challenging problem in the sense of if you need to feed the same context to the AI, and if there's a probabilistic element to it, then there is a chance that one says go slightly left and one says go slightly right, and they're both going in the same direction, but they're taking a slightly different path. And there could be some disagreement over that. And then the other thing is, if you give it too much context to do the validation, to say, here's everything, making sure that it doesn't fall into the same hole or fall into the same trap. How do you get this independent set of eyes? And so it's almost what we've concluded is there's a need to present limited context, to look at the last statement by itself and evaluate it by itself, and evaluate the efficiency, effectiveness, and accuracy of the AI, the primary AI, the agentic AI that's doing the operation.
I was also curious too. I suppose you guys use some version or adaptation of waterfall or agile in your environments.
Mm-hmm.
And AI seems to be changing that as well, right? I mean, do sprints really matter anymore? People with your agent, you're sort of doing things on your own anyway. How is the role of a developer and then the role in agile or waterfall? I mean, are you guys, well, first of all, are you guys using one or the other or a blend? And then how is AI sort of changing, morphing that into something new?
We're using pretty much an agile process and have basically morphed it to meet our needs and to move at the pace that we're developing, so that agile doesn't become a rigid framework that constrains developers into this. And so the challenge that we face is looking at problems and tackling the discrete features that need to be built, while at the same time understanding architectural features and foundational capabilities that need to be designed and architected and tested and laid out and rolled into the product. And how do we do that and do that quickly? So we've kind of morphed our own agile process to make it flexible for how we develop.
And at Rhushik, maybe you guys already have an AI Scrum leader at CDS.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was telling you, that okay, the role of developers and engineers is changing quite a lot. So I think currently we are also like John mentioned, we are also on the agile method with the traditional, I would say, approach that we are trying to modify it or morph it to implement also the AI agents. But what I'm seeing is that okay, it has to change also on how people interact with AI and how everybody using various different AIs, how their AIs also can communicate and create something which makes how can I say, which is more predictable and usable, and that matches each other's programs. That is the biggest challenge, and for that we will need very soon an AI Scrum leader. Definitely.
Do you find that developers work better together because of AI, or just differently, perhaps? I mean, because now it seems like the guy you talk to is not the developer sitting next to you; it's the co-pilot. So, is there sort of an isolation from a human point of view because of the use of AI, or do you still see developers going to talk to their friends and chatting and stuff?
I think the discussions have changed I would say that they are not talking about, okay, how to resolve this bug or that bug with which architecture to use, etc., etc. It's more on it's more higher level. Which is great thing, because they are also evolving in their career also in this way, that they are also talking about, they are thinking a little bit larger vision of the product, which is a great thing. But I think, yeah, this increase the collaboration rather than reducing it, definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
You have the same experience, John? You're nodding. So.
Yeah, very much, very similar. And I think part of it is that the touch points, the cadence between touch points is faster. So as we develop faster and you're using AI to build a function, now you're talking about the next feature and what it should do and how it should work and how it should be implemented. And so you're not going off and coding for 3 days and refining and then going through code reviews and doing revisions. The cadence of the coding is picking up. We're able to develop features faster, and that does lead to more touch points between engineers, because they're not just sectioned off working on their own thing in isolation.
Does that mean that also developers are tending to become more multidisciplinary? Like maybe some were only doing UI and other ones are only doing control, and now everybody's sort of expected to do a little of everything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like all of our engineers know how to work and how to build UI features, and they don't have to have the best JavaScript skills. For example, it's like, go create this thing for me, and it builds it.
It's amazing.
I think there is also more enthusiasm also on staff in general, I would say, not just developers and coders. There are so many new things coming over, like all the applications based on those LLMs that are coming over. So educating each other on the recent trends, recent new things that comes over, that also creates a lot of harmony between them, and it broke down a little bit of the barriers that that might have in the past, that, okay, I'm working in my division and not in yours, because now you can actually share a lot of things between them and teach each other that, okay, I learned this and that. So it's pretty good, I think, in this way.
Well, before we move on to my next question, there is a question in the chat which is pretty interesting. So Muaz Al-Akadzi says, I want to get more technical here. Do you have insights on the AI usage of foundational models versus the widespread LLMs like Anthropic Claude and OpenAI's ChatGPT? We sort of touched on that earlier, but do you see customers asking for their own foundational models so that they don't get the code eventually their IP shows up in in somebody else's chat on ChatGPT?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern around that, and it's a challenging problem, I think, in the industry right now, which is to say, can the specialist develop faster than some of the larger LLMs that are bigger and have more resources? And so it's a little bit risky right now in the industry to pivot and to go off and to build your own foundational model, because it can very quickly become outdated, and general advancements are pushing the frontier so fast that you can get left with old technology or stale technology, or have limited capabilities as a result. And so
Betamax, you can Betamax yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So the challenge is really understanding customers' concerns, working with them, and providing solutions, while also giving them the performance that they require and staying at the cutting edge, because everything's really changing very quickly. And at the end of the day, it's best for the customer, like our customers, it's best for them to have the most recent advancements.
Yeah, I found the same way. I mean, creating our own LLM, I mean, that would be very expensive, but on the same time, we won't be as competitive as people who are already specialized in that. So having said that, I believe that, I mean, yeah, of course, plugging to other LLMs or the larger models would be one way to see. But I also saw that some of our large customers or the OEMs, they are developing their own maybe modified version of LLM, or they have their internal system. And I see that, okay, that is more interesting, and that's where we have to be able to stay agnostic towards all this different various LLM, so we can plug to a specific LLM based on the customer requirement would be necessary. Because as a specialist software, we are not gonna bring as much value to the LLM itself, but we're gonna bring value on how to use our algorithms better using those LLMs.
And
So speaking of, okay, so John, I
would
don't want
just
to interrupt you.
add one thing. It's interesting, Rhushik, that you mentioned that you started with machine learning. And in our approach, and one of the things that we're thinking about is understanding what do LLMs do well, and then saying, what does machine learning do well, and blending those approaches. And so there's power that comes from not taking the easy way out and not just leaning on the LLM to do everything by itself, but there's power that comes with taking a more holistic view towards AI and integrating machine learning strategically where it can give you the most power.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Let's move into the next section, which is about when someone is using CognaSIM and CDS, where are the touch points with AI? Are they actually seeing an agent that's doing stuff that's AI-ish? Is there a little chat bot on the side, or is it more the plumbing, the ML informed optimizations underneath the covers? I mean, where are the touch points between the user of the software and the AI that you're deploying?
Yeah, we've built an on-prem solution that is a standalone utility that then connects with and interacts directly with various CAE and FEA software. And so we find that to be really effective in the sense that our interface it looks a lot like a chatbot, but it gives us the power to add features and add capabilities that that aren't readily available, through a chatbot. And so we're really building an ecosystem and an environment that the user interacts with. And we can keep it very simple and streamlined, but as they work with it, one of our key guiding principles is that we don't want to build a black box. So we don't want it to go off and execute something and then deliver you this result on a silver platter and say, isn't it amazing? And do you like it? But so we're very transparent in our workflows. So as you interact with our AI agent, it's going and it's performing the functions that the user requested in ANSYS, and then you see it actually building a simulation in ANSYS and completing the tasks. And it's powerful in that way because they get the visibility, and somebody who never had used ANSYS before can see, oh, it created this, oh, it did this, it added this here, and they can start to get a feel for the simulation software and start to get comfortable with it. So we're not taking the expert engineers out of that platform. We're just augmenting and accelerating their workflows.
But there's a danger if they figure out how to do it right, they won't need CognaSIM though, right?
Yeah, we're not worried about that.
Don't want to show too much. Okay.
Yeah, we make it faster and easier to do just about everything they want to do. So,
how about you, Rhushik? How does that work for cognitive design?
So we are the chatbot, and for applications, it could be one way of doing it. On our side, as we are a design software, and we need interaction, quite a lot of interaction with the 3D models, but also with the whole workflow that is created to optimize that 3D model for performance, for manufacturability, for cost, for carbon footprint. So all these modifications requires a lot of interaction, having only chatbot would not be enough for in our use case specifically. So we believe that bringing so our whole model that we are constructing, I can't say very much about it, but yeah, I mean it would be the different way of interaction with the 3D models. It may not be the chatbot; it would be more natural in a way to interact with the 3D models that would be there. We'll be using LLMs and other things in various ways, but what we want to focus on is to bring a fundamental change on how the engineer designs a product, how it communicates with the software in the best way possible, and there is a real interaction between the software and the engineer, so that it can evolve in the right direction. So that's what we are building at the moment. So yeah, that's why I can't say a lot about it.
That's okay, but I recall when I spoke to you or with Vincent that you guys developed your own graphics kernel, that you're not using Parasolid or Open Cascade or ACES, which is pretty interesting too, right?
Sorry, your voice got cut a little. Yeah. We
I'm
don't
sorry.
use. Yeah.
You built your own graphics kernel, which is a
Yes,
huge
exactly.
undertaking.
Yeah. So we are based on our implicit modeling kernel. So we have a complete control over our geometry engine. And the interaction that happens with it could be very different from select.
Seems like he had some networking problems.
Sorry.
You back?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let me start again.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, some internet connection problem. But yeah, on basis of implicit modeling kernel that we have, we added the functionalities of like basic FEA solvers, so static analysis, mechanical and thermal. We have also manufacturing analysis, cost analysis, and carbon footprint analysis. So all this together requires a lot of flexibility in the interaction side, and that's what we are trying to create. Okay,
just in case you didn't know, Rhushik, we don't have video of you. We do hear you, though.
I will try to start again my video here.
Okay, no problem. And not that we didn't want to see you, but well, that's pretty cool. So now we're in 2026. We just turned the calendar over. And we, at the end of 26, we had yet another revolution with this crazy Moldbot, Cloudbot. He had another very autonomous, loosey-goosey kind of use WhatsApp and talk to your AI and just create stuff. I talked to one founder last week that said he was talking to his phone and his 3D printer just starts making stuff. It just like a replicator. Like we're already there.
Yeah.
Where do you? I mean, how has your opinion of AI changed, John? You came in. You said you were already pretty enthusiastic, but at the same time, you wanted to see a little bit of wait and see. Well, you've had the 4 years. You're already using it to a big degree, but are you still as bullish, or you still have some reservations? And where do you think it's going, frankly?
Yeah, I think that I'm really excited about the power that it brings when AI is clicking and it's doing everything that the users want. And the other thing that I'm bullish on is the power of AI for scalability. And so the way that we started building systems wasn't the most scalable. And so you work on technology, you develop an approach. And I think the other thing is that AI is making the development of AI-based systems faster and more efficient. And so that's, I think, exciting. And the challenge is really, I think it will be a challenge separating out the signal from the noise of a lot of conversations about things that can be done with AI and demonstrating a real user-focused and productivity emphasizing capability of AI, not just that it can do something cool, but here's how it matters and here's the tangible outcomes and measurable KPIs on how it's making a positive impact in your organization. And so some companies, if we step back and we look at the broader AI in the engineering space and AI in the simulation space, There are a lot of companies that are focused on surrogate models and other approaches such as that take a really large investment and don't yield immediate ROI. And so our focus is to say that companies need to see ROI, they need to see it faster. And so we're excited just to use productivity enhancement to do that. And so I'm very bullish on AI and where it's going and the advancements. But you have to be flexible and adaptive because you can't get locked into one system or one approach. And so you have to be really staying at the cutting edge and understanding what's happening in the market and what's the new approach and how do I pivot and how do I integrate this. And that can be a challenge because it's so fluid and it's moving so quickly.
Yeah, so you got to watch the AI Across the Product Lifecycle podcast
Exactly.
to see the latest.
Don't miss an episode. You'll get less
Rhushik,
time.
we still can't see you, Rhushik. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I'm still listening to it's very interesting. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, I don't have the control over the camera.
That's
in this
okay.
app.
But
Yeah,
do you want to talk about, how your perception of AI has changed over the last 4 years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, perception of AI. So as I mentioned, like we were from the beginning. When we started the company, from the beginning, we were working on the ML models and everything. So for AI, for us, it was always part of our journey. I'm a big fan of what's happening at the moment. It's incredible to be alive as a but we need to put also customer and their data at the center of our decision making process. Security and accountability over the data, customer data, would be our primary focus while implementing AI in our tech. And moving forward, we see that it has lowered the boundary of a lot of technological fields that were kind of safeguarded by big players in the past. Now it's becoming more of a level playing field. So people who understands the best the customer, who can dream the biggest, would be and who can implement it the fastest, would be the big winners out of this. So 2026, it's gonna be very, very busy year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I bet. Just before we move on to the digital maturity question, do you guys have any advice for the younger engineers that might be watching in terms of things to focus on in order to not have AI steal your job, which seems to be a common source of anxiety for a lot of folks?
I would say that technology changes, and the best way is to not be skeptical of technology or not to be dismissive of it, because if you do that, it'll move on and you'll look outdated. And so the real challenge that I would say to new engineers in the workforce, whether you're in software development or if you're doing product development, is to embrace AI and understand AI and become an AI master. You don't need to start your career as a green engineer that needs to learn things and doesn't know anything. You can ask questions, very specific questions about how do I do this thing? And you can go and get information that you need and on the job training and task specific guidance using AI. And so I would say lean in and do it, but also learn how to evaluate and weigh what it's telling you and say, is this adding up and does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And go back to your engineering principles and use those as your foundation and evaluate AI in relationship to that. And so you have to ask the right questions, you have to think the right way and not just ask questions and take the answer that you get, but you have to know how to challenge it and know how to go deeper and get a more complete understanding instead of just a surface knowledge.
He's back. There he is, Rhushik.
Back.
I was wondering if I had to put a stuffed animal or something in your spot. Just so, what did you want to say about
the
younger
definitely
generation?
to young engineers. I really believe that we are going back in a way in the way how engineering was done, fundamental physics, mathematics, the knowledge about it would be even more important to be able to judge if the answers that are coming over from the AI are relevant, are correct, and as the whole engineering role is evolving, it's exciting time to be an engineer in this field, because it's not taking away any jobs. On the contrary, it's taking away all the painful tasks that we were doing in the past
Mm-hmm.
on all this 30 years or some. That will go away. So for me, it's a good thing that AI has arrived. But on the same time, that doesn't mean that whatever he says, it's whatever the AI can produce is correct. We need to be careful about the judgment, and
Vigilant.
in order to do that, having a better understanding of mechanics, of physics, of thermodynamics, of mathematics would be key to do so. So yeah.
Thank you. So let's just shift gears because we've got another 15 minutes. I like to talk about digital maturity in the enterprise, because you guys are obviously not going into green fields, right? You're going to companies that already have engineers that are already developing products. It's pretty rare that someone starting out is going to go immediately to a startup, right? They're going to have some legacy. And I think that first part of the question, and a quick response would be, when you are going to your customers that are using CDS and CognaSIM, do you get a feeling, let's say on a scale of 1 to 5, how mature they are? Like 1, I would think of as, almost everything is still email and Excel. 5 is like agentic, adaptive, digital twins that nobody's at 5, right? Almost nobody, and
Right.
probably nobody's at 4. But in your experience, Rhushik, where are most of your customers? They'd be closer to 1, closer to 3, somewhere in the middle.
I think they are more close to 1 than 5, yeah, for sure. And that's for sure. But since the beginning of the year, I have seen changes. I have seen initiatives in the large organizations that we work with in aerospace industry in Western Europe, that they have created initiative to understand, okay, what's going on with the whole AI hype. They have special task forces. They have the budget allocated for this specific requirements, and we have more and more requirement that, okay, yeah, I mean, are you using AI? How are you using? The questions are more relevant. They are trying to understand. They are trying to position the company, because I think they have understood that if they miss out on this this opportunity, the competition could take leap forward, and this would be considerable to catch up in the future. So it's amazing to see that even the large organizations, which was very difficult to move 3 years back, to make them understand that, okay, yeah, use generative design algorithms. They were very skeptical about it, but now suddenly Claude Code, yeah, okay, why not? We are trying it. Okay, that's surprising, but okay, let's go for it. It's this is interesting.
Yeah,
I see something similar, and I would say that a lot of the customers that we talk with fall in like the 1 to 2 category, and there's a slight difference in that companies that are doing hardware development that have a software component, a heavy software component to their product, have taken advantage of this kind of leading edge of software development coding agents, and they now see the power of AI, and they can see it making an impact. You're going from like early concept, early adopters to within 2 years, widespread adoption in the software development field, and seeing impacts, and companies really feeling that if, like as Rhushik said, if I'm not using this, I'll get left behind. So that's happened in the software space. And companies that have exposure to that have a software component to what they're building, now are thinking about, how can I get the same wins in hardware? Because hardware traditionally, in terms of, if we just looked at, we talked earlier about agile processes. And so that's a very old concept in software. and is just making its way into some hardware development team. So hardware can be 5 to 10 years behind. And when it comes to the adoption around AI, it seems like hardware is starting to catch a vision and is catching up. It is right now about 2 to 2.5 years behind where software is. So that's exciting. And I would say that companies that don't have a software component are a little bit closer to the one of doing things the traditional way. This has always worked for us. The risk for them really is not having the opportunity to see the light in how AI is impacting the software development field. Means that they may stay in the dark and remain skeptical about AI's capabilities for hardware development.
And have you guys seen any cases where adopting an awesome AI-powered solution like CDS or CognaSIM has created some kind of ripple effect or an aha moment or an epiphany for management to say, if we really worked on this digital maturity stuff and we broke silos and we actually work together as one company rather than a bunch of separated and business units that hate each other. Oh my gosh, we could be so much better. Have you actually seen that in the real world? Rhushik, you want to start with that one?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the good part of this job, that we finally see it, that people are realizing it. Large organizations are realizing it, that okay, this is where we need to join forces rather than working in silos, because our competition is not internal but it's external. And the knowledge platform that we need to, we can share the know-how of an engineer is key to overall product development acceleration. So that's the message that we are conveying to them, and it's much more receptive last 2 years than the years before, definitely.
You had the same experience, John?
I would say in very small windows and very small pockets, because what we're seeing is that it really has to start from the top, and it has to be leadership driven, and it requires good corporate discipline to say, it's not the fact that AI can improve collaboration, which is one of the core foundations of our platform, is that it really comes into the human element and human nature, and says, like, do humans want to tear down these walls? Because the silos that exist were built by humans. And they're built to protect groups and to protect organizations and to structure things and to have discipline and to organize and to have formal channels of communication. And so companies that want to move faster and want a more fluid environment and see the benefits of that, it really has to come from leadership above, and that has to be propagated to every level. And that now the tools are there to really transform how businesses think, how to create a true digital thread throughout product lifecycle. But I'm optimistic that more and more companies will get there, but it really starts with human nature and people that have a big vision and want to implement it.
And I don't want to get too sidetracked before we conclude, but I'm wondering too, how many of the companies you guys work with have separated data from IT? Because I think that's one of the problems too, is if you keep it all under the same hat, it doesn't really work, because data is not an IT solution. Data is a whole philosophy, right? And you need data stewards and data custodians and data owners and data scientists in order to really become a digital enterprise. How many, like what percentage of the companies you worked with had a separate line of reporting for data and IT, and which, as opposed to having just one hat?
On my side, not many, to be honest. I would love that they would do it. This is a very important topic that you mentioned, Michael, and I think it's still not enough understood. They understand that the data-driven decision making would change dramatically, but it hasn't been separated and treated differently from before, from my perspective.
Same with you, John.
I agree, and I would say that in the better organizations, data gets its own subgroup within IT, but IT is still the gatekeeper. And so, yeah, it's a really interesting avenue and important for companies to consider that as managing this data across product lifecycle changes.
I get the impression that and I'll talk about this in other podcasts, obviously, but I get the impression maybe on the manufacturing side, there's been more of a push for that because of UNS, because of the way we've been able to look at machine data, and it's OT, it's not IT, right? So there's already been a bit of a separation. So hopefully that'll come into our side, into the design side of that, engineering side of the house. Right. So before we wrap up, I just want to check in with you guys in terms of like I was going to mention that I've got a threaded series of conferences coming up. There'll be one in Warwick, UK on the 25th of March. I think, Rhushik, you said CDS was going to be there anyway. So if you want to meet Rhushik and the CDS team, they'll be at Warwick. On the 13th of April, I'll be down in Miami. I think, John, you said you may come down for a cafe colada with me. So you definitely can come to Miami and meet John. Are there other events where people can meet you guys in the next couple of months? Where can they meet CognaSIM and CDS?
Yeah, I mean, we will be present at, as you mentioned, at the
Develop 3D.
Develop 3D Live. We'll be there also at AMUG, AMUG. It's in Reno, Nevada.
And CDFAM, are you going to go to
CDFAM,
Barcelona?
We'll be there. We'll be there also for Farnborough, and we'll be there for a couple of aerospace events in Western Europe.
Awesome.
We'll try to be also on the Japan side for Manufacturing World later this year.
I might do a threaded over there, so hopefully we'll get together over in Japan too. How about you, John?
We'll be at several ANSYS Simulation World events. There's some local events throughout the country on the West Coast and also in Boston. And we'll be at the PTC Developers Conference. And we'll also be at several NAFEMS events this spring, early this year.
That's awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation today, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
thanks to the audience. Thanks for the 2 or 3 questions we got in the chat. And I'm looking forward to meeting you guys both in person this year. That's really awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. You guys want to say goodbye?
Yeah,
thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and thank you, Michael, for hosting.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I'll be back next week. I think I've got 4 webcasts for you guys next week. A lot of manufacturing, a little bit of engineering and simulation. But we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was